Welcome back to One in the Word. I'm Pastor Peter Johnson. Thanks for joining me here for another episode of our presentation and discussion. Thanks for being a part of it. I want to talk a little bit more today about leadership, about ourselves in our work, in our relationships at home with our kids. Because I had an image come to me again, and I think it really relates to what good leadership is all about. Stephen McKinley is a pastor, a retired pastor now. He came out to New York once when I was a young pastor and gave a presentation on leadership to us young pastors trying to figure out what parish ministry is all about. But he used this image of like a bank account or an account that we have when we're in the process of doing leadership. So this account that we have is an account that in leadership and in relationship with people that we're with, if it's at our churches or our places of employment or with our families, that we go about the task of being good with each other. We care for each other. We look after each other. Here in a church, maybe it's that I'm involved in a really important funeral and I provide some really thoughtful words. And when I do so, not only does it comfort the bereaved, but it also puts a couple of points in my account of good favor from people in the congregation. Maybe you at your place of employment, you achieve in something, and then people in your company, maybe your supervisors, maybe your coworkers, will look at you and say, wow, this is somebody who we can count on. The same thing happens in our families as well. We do good things, we care for one another, and our bank account rises like that, of goodwill, of genuineness, of just a good positive balance, right? Well, Stephen McKinley in this image talked about how important it is that we think about those kinds of things, think about how our account balances are, and that it's good that they're high. He also challenges us, though, to not consider ourselves to be too beloved. Don't be too beloved, because there comes a time in our lives, in our relationships, in our work, where we need to spend out of that account the good things that we need to spend out of that account so that we are, in some instances, being truthful to others about a circumstance or an issue. And sometimes it isn't maybe something that people would consider a positive thing, but it's maybe a challenging thing. Let me give you an example. As a dad, for instance, I could have an account with my boys, and I do have an account. They look at me as their dad, and we enjoy doing lots of different things together, and I enjoy doing things with them and for them, and all those things add up in my account. But as a father, I also know that there comes a time when I also need to be a dad, and I need to spend out of that account, and everything isn't always happy or great when, say, school is starting and we have to pick up and do new habits, or the room needs to be picked up, or the laundry put away. There are even more consequential parenting things that parent conversations have with kids that spins down those things. The same is also true at work. Sometimes we may have differences of opinions, and we need to air those differences of opinions for the good of the whole. And sometimes they're challenging words that we give to the people that we're supervising or our co-workers. But we're constantly navigating the goodwill account and spinning it down. Stephen McKinley also talked about how if you are doing too much of spinning down your good account, you just get to the point where you're at the bottom of the barrel and are exhausted and overspent. And that's also a challenge for any leader, any parent, any employee or manager. So what I want to talk about here today a bit is what it looks and what it feels like to try on the good cop, bad cop image in life and in relationships with people in our work and so forth. What is it like, as Frederick Buechner once said about Christian ministry, that our role is to comfort the afflicted and then afflict the comfortable? that there's a balancing act between comforting the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. This concept of tough love sometimes that is required in life. And I wonder how well and good we are at doing that and performing those words and living in those relationships. And if we sometimes have or don't have the kinds of support and encouragement that we need in order to do a little bit of both. We all love to be beloved, but we also know that there are times in the middle where we also need to perform leadership, parenting, provide direction, and movement forward. And I think it's a worthy conversation for us in our Wine in the Word groups. So I was thinking a little bit about then an appropriate scripture passage to share with you. And I thought of the end of 1 Corinthians, because I always liked how Paul sometimes summarizes with some cordial words of encouragement to the people, in this case, the people who lived in Corinth, because he really wants them to live genuinely and authentically with one another in community. And to this topic of being beloved people, but also needing to have some leadership capacity for us to bring about change and have constructive conversation, he says, keep alert, stand firm in your faith, be courageous, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. So I think this whole topic of leadership, about being a beloved leader and wanting to be loved and liked by everyone, but also being someone, if it's a leader or parent or a colleague or what have you, that is courageous and strong in what we think and believe. And sometimes it has to do with faith principles as well. All of this is a topic of, I think, good conversation among friends for support and for encouragement as we want to do what is right and what is faithful. So thanks for participating. I hope the questions are helpful for you as you engage in your conversations.